Hi, today we're going to create a landscape. In art class, we've been talking about different lines that can be used in art, and we've also been learning about landscapes, pictures of the land. This is a great landscape, and it shows the mountains and a desert in the afternoon when the sun is starting to set. So you can see the curved line, that's the sun in the background, and you see all of the jagged lines and zigzag lines that make up the mountains. Those were done by tearing paper. So that's what we're going to try to do today. First of all, your materials are red, yellow, and blue, the primary colors of crayons, orange, yellow, and red, the warm colors of construction paper. We have a scrap sheet of paper that we can do some shading on, and then we also have a piece of poster board that's going to be our background that we glue everything down to. So let's start by creating our sun. I'm working on my poster board today, my background, and you can see I don't need my whole sun. I just need a curved line that shows the top of the sun going behind those hills. I'm going to use my yellow crayon and draw that curve that is the top of the sun, and I want to shade it in yellow, but I'm going to use the side of that crayon. I like coloring with these crayons and using the side of them. You get a nice soft color. And again, we don't have to color in the whole sun, but we do want to get that yellow all in the curved line that we mated. We're going to cover up the bottom of it with some of our mountains with torn paper. Now we know the sun isn't just yellow, it also has some red in it, and yellow and red make orange. So I'm going to rub lightly with my red so we get some yellow, some red, and some orange. Good. I see all three of those colors working together to give us that warm color. Great. There's my sun. Now I want to do the blue sky around it. So let me get out my blue crayon, and I'm going to use it on its side also to color in my sky a soft blue. And sometimes in the afternoon when the sun is setting, you might see some purple in the sky and some red in the sky too. So we can add some of that in. After we do our soft blue here, for the sky, that evening sky when the sun is starting to set, we can add in some red. And you might have some deeper, darker parts in that sky. Just press a little bit harder for those darker parts. You might take your red and very lightly do some red so that we're starting to see some purple in the sky at night as the sun is setting. I'm liking that sunset. That looks really nice. So there's my background. I can come back later and add little details like clouds if I want to using some white paper. But right now I want us to focus on the mountains that we're going to have. So with your orange, your yellow, and your red paper, we're going to tear each one down the center and make a jagged line. So let's try with the yellow paper. When I do this, I don't want to wrinkle my paper up too much, but I do want the lines to go back and forth like the jagged lines of those mountains. So I want it to be rough and rocky, very jagged. Jagged lines are like broken glass. They're rough and broken. I should have a couple of different looking mountains there that I can use. Let's try the same thing with our orange paper. Rough, jagged lines, but also being very gentle when I tear too. I'm using my fingers kind of like scissors to cut out shapes that I like. Here's the shape of rough, rocky mountains. And then let's try with our red. If you tear all the way, that's okay too. You can use some small pieces of mountains and layer them together. Now, if you see the picture on the board, the edges of our mountains have some darker colors on them. We can do that also. After we make our mountains, before we layer them down, use the scrap sheet of paper that I gave you and try your red crayon on its side to just go over the very edge of that. Like those are also getting some of the sun's rays that make everything look really bright gold and red at the end of the day. So I'm just using my red crayon to rub over that and give it some texture so that it looks rough. I can see how that's going to look on my paper. Oh, I really like that. I'm going to try the same thing with one of my yellow pieces. Now right now I'm just arranging things. I haven't glued them down yet. But I can do my red softly on its side and go over some of my yellow mountains here. And then let's arrange that and see what that might look like if they're overlapping. Rows and rows of mountains overlapping into the distance. Let's try it with some red paper too. You might have to press a little bit harder when using the red crayon on the red paper. But again, we're just trying to show some of the texture, the rough edges of the mountains. That looks really nice. I'm going to come back and trim this off the edge when I glue it down. Let's try some more mountains. Just using the edge of that crayon to get some color, some texture. So your mountains may not look just like mine. Yours may be standing straight up, more jagged than mine are. And actually, I'm going to rearrange mine when I glue these down so that mine have red and yellow with orange in between. Like this, red, yellow, and orange to remind me that red and yellow work together to make orange. So let me do my other red paper. And last one, let me try my yellow paper. Oh, I like it when I get just the edge of it like that. Oh, that's really nice. So I'm arranging those to see what they might look like. I can see I'm going to have to trim some paper off of one end, and that's okay. And I really have to start by gluing down my last layer first. So let's try that now. Remember, when we're using liquid glue, we just use a few dots and use the tip like a paintbrush to spread it around. If you're using a glue stick, it's a little bit neater. We have to try really hard to be very neat with the liquid glue. So let me move my mountains. I'm going to turn this over and do some very light lines of glue on the back side. Super light. You don't ever want to put too much liquid glue. It gets really messy. It can cause your paper to wrinkle. Now I'm not squeezing. I'm using the tip like a paintbrush to spread it around like this and make sure I get all the way up to the top and all the way down to the bottom. And I have my scrap piece of paper underneath this. In case I get any glue out, I won't get it on my desk. All right. One of the great things about liquid glue is when I stick this down, I can still move it around some if I want to move it around. I'm going to make this side really neat, and then I'll come back and trim off of this side over here. I want to slide those mountains up some. You can't do that with glue stick. Good. Now let's try an orange. Very, very, very thin lines, almost as thin as spider webs. You don't ever want any big puddles and big pools of liquid glue. Now we'll glue it down. I like the way these mountains are overlapping. One set of mountains is in front of the other, but we can still see the other mountains back behind it. That looks really great. Now let's do a yellow paper. This will help me remember that red and yellow make orange. So red's like one piece of bread in a sandwich, and yellow's like another piece of bread. And where they meet in the middle, where the meat is in a sandwich, we get the orange. That is when you're mixing colors of crayons or mixing colors of paint. Red and yellow make orange. Here's my next row of mountains. I like how neat this edge is all the time as I'm coming down my mountains. Let's do another red. Thin spiderweb lines of glue, and then use the tip like a paintbrush to spread it around. So right now I'm gently squeezing it out. Now I'm coming back with using the tip of the bottle like a paintbrush to spread it around. One of the reasons I like using liquid glue is it is so much less expensive than glue sticks and less wasteful too. Because once you finish a project with a glue stick and you use it all up, it goes in the landfill and makes trash on our planet. And with liquid glue, with these bottles, we can usually make them last a lot longer. Now let's do our orange. We're making another red, orange, yellow sandwich where red and yellow meet. We get orange. Thin spiderweb lines of glue. They're kind of like zigzag lines. That's how I spread it out. Then I'm using the tip like a paintbrush, so when I get done, you really don't even see my lines of glue anymore. It's all spread out nice and evenly like I'm painting. I always spread my paint nice and evenly. Trying to keep this edge over here super neat. Getting down to my last set of mountains. These mountains remind me of being out in the desert in Arizona or New Mexico or even Utah, where you have tall mountains, but then you also have mesas, which are like plateaus, where it looks like it's going up like a mountain and then it gets flat on top. There we go. This one I want to make neat across the bottom of my page. My overlapping turned out great. I want to press it all down very, very well. And then the last thing I want to do is trim this side. So let me turn it over so I can see that side. And very carefully, very neatly, I'm going to cut along the edge of my poster board. If you need help doing that part, I can help you do that part. And that's my landscape. The last thing I want to do is add my name to the bottom right. very, very small. Press it all down neatly and let it dry. I love the colors of this. Love it. Can't wait to see how yours turns out.